Good morning. Today we're going to be making a French meringue. You normally do learn how to make this if you take catering or food technology for GCSE. This is one of the most basic meringues you can make because it's uncooked. The other two cooked meringues are Italian meringue and Swiss meringue. Perhaps we'll learn those in another video. The basic formula for French meringue is egg whites and sugar. The rule of thumb, you always need double the amount of sugar to egg whites. So I have 2 egg whites here, which I weighed out to 100 grams. So therefore I have 200 grams of sugar. I also have some salt and vinegar, and we're going to use this to clean the mixing bowl. The reason we do this is because bowls can always have a lot of residual dirt and grease, and that is most definitely what meringues do not like. Any excess grease can cause the egg whites to become too heavy, and they don't incorporate any air, because with meringues you want to incorporate as much air as possible. So I've put in a little bit of white wine vinegar and salt. I'm going to swirl that around and then give it a rinse, and then we'll be ready to start making our meringue. Okay, so we've got our egg whites into the mixing bowl. Another point I should have mentioned with the sugar. The best kind of sugar to use making any kind of meringue is normally caster sugar. Caster sugar has a much finer grain than granulated sugar, so therefore it'll be slightly lighter, and it'll be able to incorporate a lot more air. Because if you put sugar under a microscope, you'll see that it's made up of tiny little crystals, and the jagged edges of those crystals, they capture air pockets, which is how we get that lovely aeration into our meringue. I'm going to make our meringue on this Kenwood mixer, which I've had for many years. If you don't have one, you can either use a hand mixer, or you can use a whisk if you want to build up your forearms. As you'll notice with this, you will need to apply the same principle if you do it by hand. If I switch it on, you'll notice the motor goes round, but at the same time the whisk is spinning in a counterclockwise motion. If you do it by hand, the best way you can do it is a figure of 8 action. So instead of just moving the whisk or beaters round and round the bowl, if you do a figure of 8 action going around the bowl, you'll be able to incorporate more air. You're supporting the corners of your mixture in the bowl, and you will achieve your meringue much quicker. So I'm going to switch this on to full speed, and I'm going to bring it up to the stage we will need before we add the sugar. Okay, as you can see, I had that running for no more than a minute, and you can see that the appearance and texture of the egg whites have changed. They're now beginning to look very frothy, so we're beginning to incorporate the air. I'm going to switch that on, and I'm going to bring it to the stage where we very slowly add the sugar. We do not want to overbeat the egg whites, otherwise we'll just be breaking down the protein strands, and then that's what will cause it to fall apart, and then it'll just look like a bubble bath. So, switching the machine back on, nice and slowly. I've just added a very small steady stream, and already it's beginning to look tighter and shinier, and there are fewer bubbles, so we'll continue doing that. We stop there. You can already see our mixture has doubled in volume. It is beginning to look glossy and shiny, and there's a marked absence of air bubbles. Switch that on. We'll add the remainder of our sugar. Now, I've added all the sugar, let it run for a minute, and already it looks a lot stiffer, it has a nice shiny sheen to it. So, this is the test. It has formed a peak, it's stiff, still hanging off the whisk, and the final test move the camera out. Notice how I'm tipping it up. It holds its shape in the bowl. That is the mark of a well-mixed meringue. Now that we've made our meringue, I'm going to demonstrate a couple of ways of piping it. So, first of all, as you can see, I have a baking tray and a piece of baking parchment. I also have a piping bag with a star nozzle. When filling a piping bag, bring it down over your hand like a glove so you can open it out like so, and always half fill a piping bag only. If you overfill, then the mixture will be very difficult and awkward to pipe. That way, you have more control. So, using a Maurice, I have half filled the piping bag. I then close it up, give it a squeeze down, and as you can see, it fits comfortably into the palm of my hand. Now, I'm going to do a little dab here, 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 and here. And that way, you can now affix the paper down so it won't move about so much. So, what I'll do, you can do a little florets, like so. To do this, hold the nozzle straight, squeeze with the left hand, let it come up, and then do a little twist. Okay, and then we'll try a meringue nest. To start off, at the centre, you make a little circle, working to the outside. Then we stop, And then, going along the outside perimeter, you pipe round and then build it up a couple of levels to make a wall. And you can use that to make pavlovas, which would be a medium skill dessert if you were doing it for a GCSE exam. But if you're making a lemon meringue pie, you could easily use this as a topping. You could either pipe it using florets as I've shown you, or doing long strands like that, or you can try flattening it. So, like that, one like that, like this, and so on. So, you are therefore building up the various layers. What I'm going to do now, we then dry these out in a warm oven. You want the oven to be ideally no more than 90 degrees because you want to dry them out, but you don't want to caramelize the tops of them, okay? So, I have a preheated oven here, which I'll take you over to. I'll put them in for 90 minutes and then we will have a look at them.